Holla ballers, what's going on? It's Preacher, and we're going to discuss today the loot system, or potential loot systems that are coming in Warlords of Draenor, because it's one of the most mired in secrecy aspects of the game that's not... We're just not getting enough info on it. We keep getting these little snippets of what's going to happen, but what we're not getting is a picture of how this is going to work, what's going to happen. But what we do get occasionally is tweets and little inklings about what they think, but we're not getting the, hey, guys, this is what's going to happen in Warlords. We've had certainly a vast amount of new stats coming in. How's that going to work? I tweeted at Blizz a long time ago, about 2-3 months ago, and got the response that we're not going to have drops that cover all those bases, which is a little bit scary. A little bit scary. They say we're going to get enough so your stats are covered, but you're not going to put in like 9 different pieces of plate that have all different stats on it. And the problem there is the classes in terms of gameplay aren't changing too much. And the recent tweets from Celestalon, who is kicking ass, by the way, what a fucking gangster, nice replacement for Ghostcrawler there, who is saying that, hey, it's not going to be as take it or leave it as we discussed in a previous video. It's going to be covering pretty much all your bases. So like the Ret Pallies, who are very much in love with haste, gets rid of a lot of downtime, they're going to be fine. All the other classes who are similar in nature, so we can look at the rogues, who are very much into mastery for their assassination spec, they're going to be fine. All this kind of stuff is interesting to me, because how is that going to work? And some of you then started contacting me yesterday. I woke up to a little flurry of emails because Celestalon did say, you know what, don't worry about it, we're going to cover you. And the question that people are having is, how are you going to do this? How are you going to introduce so many more stats and variations, but still cover the fact that some people are obviously going to prefer certain stats? The classic adage in WoW is, this is my best item, everything else is fucking dog shit. So how are we going to avoid that? Few things here that Blizzard wants to combat, without a doubt. One is loot stagnation. Loot stagnation has been present in the game since pretty much ever, right? Wasn't a big problem. We've all kind of adapted to this. This is the system. This is how we deal with it. By loot stagnation, I'm talking about in vanilla, it was, this is your tier set. That is what you're fighting for. And then it moved to 4 pieces of a tier set and one of the best off pieces you could get. Could it be a helm, legs, whatever? And then you get the 4 piece of everything else in general. Then we got to Warlords of Draenor, and they realized that they dropped too much loot. Yeah, I said it. I said it. You can be mad. You can be mad. And people always get a little bit angry with me about loot discussions. But we do. We get too much loot now. Far too much loot. We get 3 or 4 times as much loot for a 25-man as we got for a 40-man. It makes no goddamn sense, because the loot system was pretty fine in the past. It gave reason for replayability. It gave reason to come back week on week and get some extra drops, get some extra stuff. Whereas now, people are getting close to best in slot pretty damn quickly after the last boss goes down. Almost to the point where then we introduced the Warforged stuff. Okay, yeah, you killed the heroic boss. You did everything you needed to do. And your item dropped. But it wasn't the best piece, so you kind of got to come back and get it. And it's boring, because you're chasing the same piece of armor with a little bit of an item level upgrade. We then included, obviously, Valor Point upgrades, which is crazy when you see how, if you take Siege of Orgrimmar, your LFR item that you get from the Siege of Orgrimmar is like over 50 item levels less than a heroic Warforged upgraded piece. Which is nuts, right? Just think about that for a moment. It's a 50 item level gap alone in doing Siege of Orgrimmar from LFR up to heroic. That is crazy. Absolutely crazy. I wonder how the damage skew got so out of hand, right? I wonder how things started to escalate. I wonder. Yeah, with one raid instance alone carrying a 50 item level gap. So we want to break this up. Our Blizzard wants to break this up, wants to say, you know what, it's boring. That's the problem with it. It's not fun. It's not fun. So what are the solutions here? The pessimist in me, or the cynic, I suppose, just kind of thinks they're going to leave it pretty much as is and just introduce different drops of the same kind of item. That's kind of boring. But the sort of hope in me, the hopefulness, stems from the fact that we're also getting these tertiary stats, which we haven't heard a lot more about, have we? The tertiary stats have been kind of, hey, there's going to be tertiary stats. And then it went all quiet. And let's face facts, the loot system for the majority of people is a pretty interesting aspect of the game. Gaining more power, more interesting, and working on your characters. It definitely seems to be moving towards a Diablo 3 style model where there's going to be some variation on items, although they kind of said there won't be. it's almost as if Blizzard isn't 100% on what the system is going to be. Are they just going to drop more items? Because that's just crazy in my eyes. We can't have anywhere near as much items. In fact, it needs to be toned back a bit. We need to pull this back. We need to say, hey, you know what? Yeah, okay. I like that we get a lot of loot, but I don't really need 1/5 of my raid getting upgrades every boss kill in a good situation. I don't really need that. That's not that fun just to have loot flooded at us. What they also don't want is, hey, here's the loot tables and people select the best in slot lists before the raid even goes live. Because that's boring as well. But I've got to say, I like that system because I like ticking off the checkbox. Because I've adapted to the way Blizzard does things. I like that when I get a trinket, like, that's the trinket, okay? I'm done there. Next slot, oh, boots. Okay, there's my best boots. And now I'm done with that part as well. So I'm just ticking off the checkbox as we go along. One thing they're also trying to combat here is the predictability of the looting system. Because it seriously harms the casual player base, who are the majority of the players in the game. It really hurts them. And by that I mean, we know for a fact, given our last experience and our knowledge of the game, that every raid tier will come in a couple of weeks with an LFR, which will vastly upgrade our previous gear. And it will also probably come with some sort of daily area or some sort of quartermaster who will also get us decent gear for just a few points. And therefore, I have no incentive to go raiding. Again, back to this aspect is the predictability is fine. Because the casual players, the guys who just want to log in and play whenever they feel like, they don't want to commit to a raid schedule, they can log in whenever they feel like, and they know that in a couple of months or a few months' time is that there'll be just a random access to upgrades which will allow them to complete every aspect of the content they want to do. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but predictable is boring. Predictable is dull. There are also many cynical people out there who know that a new expansion's coming and our gear is going to be irrelevant anyway, which therefore means the chase for loot has become massively outdated in World of Warcraft as a whole. Over the last couple of years specifically, especially amongst this community, we've seen that the wanton sort of excitement around items has massively dwindled because people know that ultimately it's not going to make a lot of sense in 12 months' time. It's not going to be something we can look back on and rely on. And more people are just looking at loot as something we just get anyway. And I always try and push you guys towards getting the boss kills over chasing the loot. What loot system are we going to see? I hope. Let's get speculative. I kind of hope they're not reneging on reforging a little bit. And by that, I don't think they're going to bring back reforging. But are they now thinking this might not work? Because certain classes, the way we've designed these classes, we don't really want to change the classes too much. We're already hitting people with a huge reduction in abilities, which some people are going to be pissed at and probably already are. We don't really want to change how they play completely and how their stats work too much because people need to have some sort of comfort level. Otherwise, they'll just be like, this is too weird. I don't like it. Are they going to introduce something probably more along the lines of the new Diablo 3 loot re-rolling system? Which isn't that bad. I'd be kind of sad if they didn't plot something out. It's like, hey, we're getting rid of reforging and all that shit. We just want you to slap on your item as soon as you get it and boom, off you go. Kick some gems into it and you're good to go. And you can carry your gems in the bag. You can carry your enchants on a scroll. You don't need to go visit a city. You can just slap that son of a bitch on. Don't need to worry about hitting expertise caps. Off you go. Happy days. That's what they're aiming for. Is that going to change? Are we starting to see maybe the inklings that, you know what, we might have to do something different with this. Maybe we need to give people the option to customize their gear. What I do really expect to see is that there won't be set items. There's got to be something that happens with the items, and whether or not that is decided when the loot drops. And by that I mean, what is the sort of aspect of the loot that makes it unique? Unique items are becoming a thing. I'm pretty sure we're going to see a lot of unique items in the fact that when they drop, they have different sort of abilities. You might get lucky and get an extra tertiary stat or whatever. And therefore, you have a great reason to come back to the raid every single week. And maybe you want to tweak something. Maybe something drops that stacks up really nicely and actually creates something really fun. A little bit difficult with balance. Especially the efforts Blizz seems to be going to ensure that balance is sorted from the ground up. Or are we going to see some kind of re-rolling system where you can modify an item if you wish, but not in a major way? You can get the option to either do some sort of extra multi-strike or whatever the stat may be. You can rework it a little bit, but you won't see anything. I'm kind of excited, but also wary of how this is going to play out. Unique gearing, as I said earlier, the people who like to tick the best in slots lists like me, that's only a system I enjoy because of how the loot system is in WoW. What I wouldn't mind is uniqueness on items, because then I can start being excited about what I got. Oh my god, I got this piece with this piece. That sounds fucking awesome. But how are we going to see that happening? Are we going to see people battling it out? Let me give you a hypothetical situation. 1 week, a piece of plate drops that's haste crit and has nothing on it. You win it. You spend your DKP on it if you're still using such an antiquated system. And then the next week, same plate drops, same stats on it, but now it has a little tertiary stat attached to it, and now it's far better. Is one expected to then spend the DKP or spend their resources their guild has, or then make a case that they should get the same piece, the same item level, but with this extra stat on it now? And what are you going to do with the other one? Disenchant it? Get rid of it? Vendor it? Is that fair to anyone else in your raid? Could create a lot of problems, right? You can already kind of foresee this creating all kinds of wars, because loot needs to be distributed fairly. I know if I was the other guy in plate and suddenly the guy who already got a very nice piece is now arguing to get the next piece as well, I don't think I'm going to be happy with that. And surely Blizz has to take into account that this loot, though whatever it is, exciting or not, needs to be distributed in some fashion. It needs to be passed out. Guilds need to deal with their system. You can't just blazingly say, hey, you know what? There it is. You guys work out how you deal with it. We give you fun, exciting loot. You guys work out how you deal with it, because that's kind of unfair. That's going to create a lot of problems, a lot of angst. I don't want to see that either. I can see why some people are concerned. I could certainly see why some people are concerned about how this looting system is going to work. I would be kind of disappointed to just see that just a lot of stuff drops. And that's about it. Just a lot of stuff. You kill the boss and then you're just outrageously flooded with gear. But some people love that, man. Some people love that and going shit, good, shit, should. Oh, that's really good out of a bunch of options. So maybe it's just me being I don't really like that aspect of it. I don't want to see a ton of loot. I want to see a few items that we're divvying up, and each of those items is pretty fucking good. Right? Pretty fucking good. I don't want to see the loot pop or the loot troll or the loot gnome just explode in stuff and then we just wade our way through all these items. Because for me, I want to kill the boss, sort the loot out, move on. Let's get in, get out, and get the job done. That's why I like to raid. I like efficiency. Tons and tons of items, not efficient. Not efficient for Blizz to decide either, unless they've just built an algorithm which will randomly dictate certain aspects and certain drops. It's all up in the air, but we're not getting any information on this one. As of recording this, at least, we're not getting the info. I want it, because I'm interested. I want to get excited about loot again. Haven't been excited about loot in a very, very long time. Since fucking nearly 6 years, I've not been excited about items. Can they change that? Can they make it fun again? I hope so. I hope so. Let's see what happens.